From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The cry of Jesus in the final moments of his life is a heart-wrenching one. He's seemingly alone. He's been abandoned by so many of his friends and followers. And in this moment of incredible pain, he seems to have been abandoned by God himself. And so he cries out, but he doesn't just cry out any random thing. In the moment of his deepest pain, Jesus reaches back into the Old Testament, to the first words of Psalm 22. That means in this moment of incredible suffering, there on the cross, Jesus reaches for these words to pull this psalm into view. So what is Psalm 22? Psalm 22 was written by David in a time of incredible difficulty. It begins with those words, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And then it unfolds almost like a movie plot. It's graphic, it's violent. David begins in a place of desperation, and he's describing himself as beaten and bloodied. He says his bones are out of joint, that he's been stabbed and so he's bleeding, and that his enemies are surrounding him. There's incredible violence there. And it's not just physical violence. He described himself as being mocked and scorned. He describes his enemies as scoffing at him because of his faith in God. And in verse 14, he even describes himself as feeling like he is water being poured out, and that his heart is melting inside of his chest. But then the plot of Psalm 22 begins to shift, begins to change. And David, in the midst of his anguish, begins to look forward to a time when God will bring an end to suffering, when God will redeem not just him individually, David, but when God will put an end to suffering in this whole earth. David describes God at work to reverse the effects of sin and oppression. It describes God as king and him bringing justice and peace. And Psalm 22 ends with this picture of God gathering all the families of the earth for a great feast. And there at that great feast, all, young and old, rich and poor, declare together, he has done it. The fact that Jesus quotes Psalm 22 here in the moment of his greatest pain means that even as he experienced abandonment by the Father on the cross, that Jesus was looking forward, knowing that that abandonment was actually God's subversive plan to rescue his people from the power of sin and death and to reconcile us to him. So this Good Friday, as we reflect on the significance of the tragic death of Jesus on the cross, let's remember this, that Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" so that we don't have to. That he was forsaken so that we could be welcomed in, that he was cast off so that we could be invited home. No wonder we call it Good Friday.